The diner sat on a dusty stretch of road in southern Texas, the kind of place where time seemed to move slower than the country tunes leaking from the old radio. That noon, the sun scorched the asphalt hard enough to fry an egg. The diner windows were foggy with a layer of dust, but inside, it was clean in a way that felt comforting. The air smelled of fries, grilled meat, and soda syrup. The regulars here were easy to spot: long-haul drivers, construction workers, a couple of retired men, and now and then, someone anonymous looking for a cheap, quiet meal. In the back corner, by the window, sat an old man in his 70s. He wore a faded brown shirt, buttoned all the way up, khaki pants worn thin at the knees, and leather shoes scuffed down to the heel. On his head sat a navy blue baseball cap, the embroidery aged and yellowed, B-52 crew, Vietnam veteran. He sat upright, holding a plain hamburger, no sauce, no cheese, just meat, lettuce, and bun. In front of him was a small cup of water, mostly melted ice. No one asked his name, but around here, they called him Old B-52. It was half joke, half respect. He didn't say much, always came around 11:30 a.m., ordered the same meal, sat at the same booth, ate quietly, and left just as quietly. The owner once said he flew B-52s in Vietnam. He told me once, only once. We never asked again. There was something in his eyes, too heavy to touch. That day, he sat just like any other. But the peace of that little diner wasn't going to last. The bell over the door jingled loud as a group of cadets from the U.S. Police Academy stormed in. 5 of them, 3 guys, 2 girls, tall, athletic, backpacks slung over their shoulders, academy insignias stitched on their chests. Their voices rang out, young and sharp, full of energy, and something close to arrogance. "God, it's like an oven out there." "This place is heaven," said a blond guy with a buzz cut, slapping the nearest table. "Eat quick, we've got baton training this afternoon," said a dark-haired girl, and the group burst out laughing. They picked the middle table, right across from where the old man was sitting. And sure enough, they noticed him. One of the guys squinted at the old man's cap and snorted. "Yo, check out the hat. Another bomb-dropping hero, huh?" The group leaned in. One girl pushed her glasses up and read aloud. "B-52 crew, Vietnam vet. Oh wow, we've got a real-life bomber pilot here." The red-headed guy, clearly the Joker, chimed in. "I wonder how many schools and hospitals he flattened back in Nam." The girl laughed loud, mock-scared. "Oh no. He's probably picturing this diner as Hanoi in '72. Better duck." They all laughed, loud enough for everyone to hear. A few older patrons turned their heads, frowning. One of the waitstaff behind the counter glanced toward the old man. He hadn't moved, still holding his burger, chewing slowly, eyes fixed out the window. He heard them, all right. His hearing wasn't gone, just dulled a bit from decades of flying over Laos, North Vietnam, Cambodia. But he was used to misunderstanding. For him, war was never about glory. It was memory. Heavy memory. Sleepless nights in the cockpit. Missile alarms screaming. Maps torn up after a mission. Brothers lost. Another cadet slapped the table, looking thrilled. "Did y'all know the B-52 dropped over 7 million tons of bombs during the war? That's not fighting. That's industrial-scale murder." The dark-haired girl added, mockingly. "And he's still wearing that cap like he's a hero or something." They didn't notice the old man blink, just once. Not from anger. From bitterness. That slow burn of a man who gave his youth to serve his country, only to be labeled a killer by the very kids who sleep under the safety he helped build. A young server, new guy, just a few months on the job, walked up cautiously. "Sir, I can move you to another table if you'd like." The old man shook his head and smiled softly, voice deep but clear. "No need. Let them talk. They haven't learned the weight of silence yet." The server froze. The weight of silence? He didn't fully get it, but something about that line sent chills down his spine. The cadets kept going. One pulled out his phone. I'm live streaming this, yo. Look, Vietnam War vet right here. The guy probably incinerated half the country with a single button. The girl next to him threw up her hands in mock panic. No, please don't bomb us. We're just here for burgers. By now, the whole diner had gone quiet. Customers stopped mid-bite. A trucker turned away, shaking his head. The cashier frowned. But no one said a word. These were cadets, future law enforcement. Uniforms came with power, even when worn by children. And still, the old man sat. His wrinkled hands lifted the glass of water. He took a sip. His eyes stayed on the window, watching. Waiting. For something. Or someone. The tension in the room thickened. This wasn't funny anymore. The disrespect had crossed the line. But the cadets didn't see it. They thought they were calling out history, being woke, holding the past accountable. They didn't realize some lessons don't come from books. Some silences aren't weakness, they're dignity. And just then, the rumble of engines rolled up outside, deep, heavy, unmistakable. Not a truck. Not a squad car. A sound soldiers would recognize anywhere. The old man closed his eyes. Set the glass down. Straightened his back just a little more. Dust kicked up outside. Through the window, 5 military vehicles came to a stop in front of the diner. The rumble of engines still lingered in the window frames as the diner door swung open. Hot wind swept in, bringing with it dust, sand, and something else, presence. Military presence. The man who stepped in first wore a perfectly pressed OCP uniform. His rank, a full colonel, gleamed from his shoulders, and the U.S. Army patch rested proudly on his left chest. He stood tall, like a steel rod planted in concrete, his boots polished to a mirror shine. Behind him came 4 other soldiers, their uniforms crisp, steps synchronized, eyes razor-sharp. The diner fell into silence. The laughter from moments before vanished like steam in the desert. The police cadets, still grinning seconds ago, now stared blankly, confused. The colonel's gaze swept the room. It landed on the old man in the booth at the corner. A nod, subtle, firm. Then he turned to face the table of cadets. His voice came low and even, but it carried the weight of command. Who exactly are you mocking? The 5 cadets froze. 1 second. 2. Then the red-haired one, still trying to smirk, offered a shaky response. We were just messing around, sir. The colonel stepped forward. Just 1 step. But it was enough to tighten the air in the room. He didn't shout. He didn't need to. His voice was measured steel. You're mocking a veteran who once flew B-52s over Vietnam. A man who piloted aircraft through flak and fire. You think war is a joke? That blood and fallen brothers are content for your live streams? One cadet instinctively stepped back. The girl with glasses mumbled. We didn't know. He was your father? No, the colonel said, his eyes locked like a targeting system. He's the man I salute when I enter a room. He's the reason I get to wear this uniform. He's the lesson you've never been taught. He turned slightly. Sergeant Hill. Sir. The soldier behind him snapped to attention. Tell them about the first time my father brought a B-52 home from Hanoi. Without hesitation, the sergeant stepped forward, voice clear, tone precise. December 1972. Operation Linebacker 2. Lieutenant David Lockwood, sitting right there, flew a B-52D that took a direct hit from a SAM. One engine caught fire. A gaping hole torn through the left wing. Radar down. He still turned that bird around, flew it 900 miles back to a base in Thailand, brought every crew member home. Not a single life lost. A heavy silence gripped the room. None of the cadets dared make eye contact with the colonel. And yet here you sit, the colonel continued, mocking him like you understand war, sacrifice, or duty. You wear uniforms and think that gives you license to disrespect those who built the ground you walk on. The blonde cadet stammered. Who are you, sir? The colonel nodded, slow and deliberate. I am Colonel Marcus Lockwood, commander of the 173rd Airborne Battalion. Son of the man you just called a mass murderer. I've served in Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria. I've picked up the pieces of my men after IED blasts. I've talked to dying soldiers on the radio just to keep them conscious until the medevac arrived. And I still don't call myself a hero. He stared each cadet down, one by one. But you mock my father like he's some relic of a shameful past. You think you're criticizing history. But what you're really doing is spitting on the foundation that lets you eat burgers, scroll your phones, and talk nonsense without fear. One of the girls whispered, nearly choking. We were wrong, sir. The colonel didn't smile. His voice didn't soften. I don't need your apology. You owe one to the man sitting over there. And if there's any honor left under those academy uniforms, you'll do it now. The five looked at each other, shame flooding their faces. One by one, they stood up and walked to the corner booth. The old pilot sat quietly, not angry, just solemn. The kind of calm that comes from having seen more than most could imagine. The first cadet spoke. Sir, we were out of line. We had no idea what you'd done. What you gave. We're truly sorry. The old man looked at them. His eyes weren't judging. Just tired. And deep. Then he nodded. Owning your mistake is the first step toward becoming something more. But apologies alone don't cut it. Remember this shame. Let it burn into you. So one day, if you earn the badge and wear the shield, you'll know when to speak and when to shut up. The cadets lowered their heads. Not a single word. Colonel Lockwood walked to his father, placed a hand on his shoulder. I'm sorry, Dad. I couldn't just let that go. The old pilot gave a half-smile. Don't be sorry. You did what school books never could. I'm proud of you. The whole diner remained still. Not from fear, but from respect. From witnessing something sacred, reverence, discipline, and honor. When the soldiers turned to leave, everyone in the diner stood. No one told them to. From the cashier to the busboy, they all rose. No applause. No cheers. Just silence and straight backs. A salute of spirit. And the cadets, still standing in that corner, couldn't bring themselves to look up. The air inside the diner felt stretched, like a taut wire about to snap. The military vehicles had pulled away, leaving behind a heavy silence. All eyes were still fixed on the 5 police cadets, cocky just 10 minutes ago, now silent, heads bowed like children who had just been stripped of their bravado. Old man Lockwood remained seated. He said nothing. His hand gripped the coffee cup, his eyes staring out the window where the military trucks faded into the afternoon light. But within that silence was something deeper than anger. It was the quiet ache of a man who had lived, who had lost, and who had seen things these uniformed boys would never begin to understand. After a long pause, the red-headed cadet, the one who had led the mockery, finally mustered the courage to step forward. Sir, I'm really sorry. His voice was barely audible. Lockwood turned and looked at him. His gaze cut through the young man's surface-level remorse. He didn't respond immediately. Then, slowly, he asked, "What's your name?" I'm Alex. Alex Murphy." "Listen, Murphy. Do you know what it feels like to fly a B-52 bomber through a sky full of surface-to-air missiles?" Murphy shook his head. "It's like sitting in a metal coffin, flying through hell. Every time I took off, I knew I might not make it back. But I flew anyway, because there were men on the ground who needed cover. There were infantry units getting pinned down. And if I didn't show up at the right time, they'd die. I didn't fly for glory. I flew because it was my duty." He paused, then looked at each of the 5 cadets. "And today, you turned that sacrifice into a punchline." No one answered. No one dared to. He nodded slightly, as if resigning himself to the fact that times had changed, and so had people. But then his voice hardened, like thunder after a storm. You boys were the uniform of future law enforcement. But a badge means nothing without the values behind it. It's a vow. It's integrity. It's standing in the middle of chaos and choosing to protect those who can't protect themselves. If you can't even respect those who came before you, you don't deserve to carry a gun on your hip. Murphy clenched his fist, swallowing hard as if trying to absorb every word. The diner door opened again. This time, no roaring engines, just the familiar silhouette of Colonel Marcus Lockwood walking back in alone. I forgot this, he said, holding up his military cap. But truth is, I came back for something else. He stood in front of the cadets' table. His voice no longer sharp like a knife, but lower, like a father speaking to his sons. You may not have been born in wartime. You may never smell burning oil or see blood in the mud. But you can choose to live like the men who protected this country. Choose integrity. Choose loyalty. Choose silence over sarcasm. Action over arrogance. He stepped closer to Murphy and asked, "Do you want to become a man worthy of the badge you're training to wear?" Murphy nodded. "Yes, sir." "Then start today. Every day you wake up, live like you're standing on the shoulders of giants. They don't need your worship, but they damn well deserve your respect." He turned to the girl with glasses and added, "And if there ever comes a day you forget, remember this moment. Remember the shame burning on your skin. It'll guide you when you're standing in front of someone weaker than you, when you're faced with a hard choice." He looked at each cadet one by one. Not with contempt. Not with rage. But with the eyes of a man who had buried friends with his own hands and wanted the next generation to find the path before they got lost. Then, he turned back to his father's table. "Dad, let's go." The older man nodded and rose. They walked slowly, but there was power in each step. No one in the diner dared lift their eyes. Not out of fear, but out of respect. Just as the two men reached the door, an old woman at a nearby booth called out, "Thank you, gentlemen, for teaching them a lesson no classroom ever could." No one laughed. No one cracked a joke. There was only the creak of chairs as people stood, a silent gesture of reverence. The cadets remained frozen in place, visibly shaken. Murphy whispered, "I'll never forget today." The girl nodded, eyes glistening. And just like that, the weight of what had happened settled deep inside them. They began to understand, honor isn't something you earn with a diploma. It's not measured in your GPA. It's carved into you in moments like this, where the young are humbled by the shadow of those who walked through fire, so they could sit here and breathe free.